All right, everybody. Let's just make sure everything's working here. And make sure I've got the chat and everything else ready. Let me make sure I stop this or it'll echo. There we are. Okay, in the chat window, if you'd be so kind and get used to this because it's going to be a workshop today as I get my morning espresso. Could you just let me know that you can hear me, you can see me on the thing, and you can see the change your environment, change your life slide. If you could let me know that, that would be awesome. Beauty, thank you, Nancy. That's great. And let's have a look. Let's get our YouTube sound and video. Okay. Hey, Bill, thank you for that. Bruce Cass. It's all the old gang. Excellent, John. Thank you very much. Awesome. Very good. We'll get going in just a second here. Very good. All looking good. Everything working well. Hey, Phil, how you going? Very excited today. Just while we're getting set up here, please make sure you've got a pen, and as he looks to make sure he remembered, make sure you got pen and paper because it's going to actually be a series of practical exercises as well. All right, so just make sure you've got something that's handy. Otherwise, I could have just shot this as a video. So just make sure you've got that there. That would be fantastic. Bonsoir, I imagine it is, Anne. Very good. Hey, Elizabeth from Los Angeles. Very good. Okay, I think we are ready to go here. South Africa, Los Angeles, magnificent. Get yourself handy with the all of the all of the chat functionality. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching in the Academy, that would be fantastic for you to make sure you've got handles of that. Because like I said, this is going to be a very practical thing. Very excited about it. Okay, so let me just give myself a visual indicator here. It'll just be a subtle visual indicator to let me know to edit the video at this point to start the video. I'm sure you won't notice anything. Sure, that was so subtle that you didn't even realize that. But welcome everybody to this live training. This is an Academy training session, but the stuff that we've been doing in the Academy, we first introduced this into Academy training around this time last year about the importance of environment, and indeed the catchphrase change your environment, change your life. And the amount of research that appeared around that time was extensive. And so my goals for today in this workshop is for you to first of all, me to paint the case as to why environment is so dramatic, and actually what does environment mean, right? And what am I actually referring to? Am I referring to save the planet, which we should, but not in this particular case. This is about saving just you, right? And realizing that of all the change levers that you have, the environment is the only one that does not require willpower. And this is really, really powerful. So let's do that. So here we go. So change your environment, change your life. Let's get started. So there are perennial issues that all of us struggle with. It doesn't matter what vocation, whether you're trying to start a business or you're trying to stick with a hobby or you're learning an instrument, or it doesn't matter. But you've got to ask yourself, and entrepreneurs in particular are afflicted with this, which is, why can't I stick with things? Why do I keep changing things, or why do I keep changing my methods, or I could try different things, but I never stick to something to mastery. I never stick to creating the business until it's all completely created through the dips and the troughs and all of those sorts of things. Why does that happen? It's a universal frustration. And then you look at the time issue. Pardon me. I can't find the time to do what I want to do, particularly when it comes to, if you're building a business or you're doing something for yourself. It's a project which is a thing that's outside of your work and your obligations, and outside of what you're doing 9 to 5 as a general rule. Okay, so typically when we're trying to start something, and by the way, you're in great company, pretty much every single company on the planet of any worth didn't start off with millions of venture capital. The ones that did all fail miserably. But the ones that really truly started off without that, in the veritable, garage, if you will, if you're Apple, and of course, Steve Jobs and was working at HP. Steve Jobs was working at Apple. Mark Zuckerberg was a student at Harvard and did the first version of Facebook there. The people who created YouTube were employees at PayPal, right? You don't see Elizabeth Holmes started with millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of venture funding, didn't go so well, right? It's such a big deal when we look at starting and how we carve out time. But as we'll discover, carving out time when your project is the thing that you do on the side, it's not your main form of income. And frankly, even when I'm very fortunate to do what I do full time, and even then, time can be a challenge. And then, I just don't have the discipline to stick with things. I schedule things and I miss them. I put together plans and I don't execute them, or I get distracted. I just feel like I don't have the discipline. Let's check in with the chat right now. Okay. So do any of these three things, which all add up, by the way, to feeling overwhelmed often when you're trying to do your project and feeling guilty. Does that resonate with anybody, or is that just me? Just let me know in the chat here if I'm trying to figure out if this makes sense to everybody. Absolutely. Me too. Low follow through. Yes, totally resonates. Resonates. Yes, I feel the same pain. Very good. I'm glad about that. Well, no, I'm not glad about that, but it is something that we all are struggling with, right? This is the struggle that we are. And yeah, day job takes over my life. Yes, right. That often, that's a classic common thing that I deal with in the academy and the challenge all the time. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could have that certainty, that we knew that what we were going to do and when we were going to do it, and we had a level of confidence that we would be able to stick to our plan, right? Consistency is something else I hear again and again. If I could just execute consistently, if I could just do my work on my project, on my thing that's going to get me from where I am now, wherever you are, whatever situation you're in, but you're not happy, to that situation where you can see it, you know what you want to do. You want to be, captain of your own boat. You want to be you want to set your own hours. You're earning income in an area that you love. All of those things. Yeah, even pets. Yes, pets. as the I'm glad I'm standing up doing this because my cat is on my chair right now, right? All of those things, right? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could consistently do that and that we can actually get this and see the benefits of momentum? Jim Collins, the founder of Good to Great, is in the news again because he's just written, he calls it his fancy word. It's a short book, but he calls it a fancy word, a manuscript. It's not a manuscript. I think it's another M word. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, he has released a very short book. It's excellent, really good. And it's about it zooms in on one particular topic in his book, Good to Great, which was the flywheel effect, which is a great company figured out that, if you could replicate, no, not a manifesto. No, he's too geeky, too academic to call something a manifesto. But it was all about this flywheel effect. And basically, if you can set up these repeatable steps, a monograph. Thank you, Colin. Thank you. That's the word I was after. And it's all about this flow, and very, very good reading. But that is, when you see these great businesses and you see these businesses which are flourishing, you're flicking through Instagram and you're seeing these successful people doing, successful things. And you go, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I've been doing this for 10 years. This momentum, that's what they've built. Flywheel effect. They know what their targeted audience is. They're able to generate traffic for that audience. They know what they need to do to convert. They convert and people become their customers, and the customers refer other people to those customers. They spend more money. They spend the same money, but they've also got the referrals. And so you can see you get this wonderful momentum effect. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't that be great? Something we all want, right? But how do we get there? And how do we get there? And science is consumed by this. The science of peak performance and the science of behavioral psychology and the behavior of and the science of what's going on in your brain has literally exploded over the last few years in particular, and mainly thanks to, as my academy students often hear, the only way we used to be able to study our brain is to study people who have traumatic brain injuries to one part of their brain, and whatever functions they couldn't do, we thought, oh, that's where that is. Right now, we're thank goodness we can use an fMRI and we can actually see what's going on in people's brains without them having to have that trauma. Thumbs up. Thanks, progress. Right, really fantastic. And so there's been enormous progress in this. And if we look at what have we all tried to do in the past, right? We've tried productivity programs, for example. And while not the topic of today, the science tells us, particularly for the people I work with the most, entrepreneurs, people who want to start their own business, have their own thing, create a business that's bringing in, $10,000 a month every month, and they don't have to put in a 40-hour week to generate that, all those sorts of things. Those people in particular, the entrepreneur, are literally hardwired into a certain way of doing things. They can't use a traditional productivity system. Like, they love productivity systems. If you're like me, I buy every single one and read them with great gusto, thinking this will be the one. This will be the one. And I've been doing that since school, daytimers, file faxes. And guess what? It's literally in our DNA that we can't. Oh, that's the other big, of course, discovery in science is we're now able to sequence our genome. We're now able to understand people's DNA. And we're starting to, now that affordable DNA testing is available, we're actually able to see that certain people are wired certain ways. And entrepreneurs, people who want to start their own business, very tiny part of the population, we know that their ability to follow through on things is dramatically reduced versus just your average John and Jane on the street. And thank goodness, because can you imagine a society, we would not, there's a reason there's that balance, right? Our evolution has made sure there's that balance, because nothing would get done if everybody was entrepreneurial. But that's okay, because we're a little bit special, right? If you're here watching this instead of doing what else you're doing, we're a little bit special, and that's okay, and that's cool. But human nature, we're bred to see similarities, so we don't think of ourselves as special. We think of ourselves as defective. Why can those people, follow this productivity system? And as much as I try, I can't. Does this resonate with anybody? Let me check in the chat. We've got a lot of guests that are hearing this for the first time today. Just let me know. Does that sort of do people special in inverted commas, right? Let me know in the in the chat about whether this is something that's resonating a little bit with you. It's our environments and our these things that cause us and cause me and researchers to say, well, how do things change? And when we look at, all the new ideas overwhelm the older ones, Rosalind, exactly, right? And that's, wading through somebody else's idea of reporting and productivity system bores me to tears. I love, that's a definite one reaction. And another one for me is, I'd love to do that, but I can't. Anyway, again, all these things have led to all these explosions. That's just an example. We're not even covering that one today, right? The thing that we're focusing on today is environments. And typically, most of us here have 3 environments that we deal with, or 2, and they should have this third one, but don't. Or in an ideal world, they have 2 because they've been able to dump the one. But I think most of us are in the situation that there is 3. So here we go. Yes, that B study, which I read, Cherie, it's a big deal. Now, please don't be, my Academy students are used to this, but for those of you watching on YouTube, please don't be intimidated by the brilliance of my artwork, right? Look, I know I have a gift, and, my Academy students have gotten used to the, Michelangelo style paintings and drawings. There are very few things that you can train for when you are gifted like this. But this is the tip. There are 3 environments effectively that we, as a typical rule, people that follow my channel and so on, have to deal with, right? Well, have to deal with, and I hope implement. Okay, so here we go. The first one, if it's down here on the bottom right of the triangle, is the work obligation part of the process. So, you have either, you have a job that's paying the mortgage and doing all those things, or you have an obligation. You're looking after you're looking after an elder relative, or you have somebody that you need to be there for. All of these things are, a big part of this whole process. People are telling me my beautiful art is not visible. We better fix that. Sorry, my sharing just stopped for some reason. Just give me a second here. Got to keep one eye on that. Get ready. Here we go. I think that's popping up again now. Yeah, what you actually could see it. It was just in your mind's eye. It was so good that you were just basically knocked unconscious for a minute or so. Hopefully, it should be popping up there in a second. I'll keep an eye on that to make sure we can see it. Okay, so if we have a look at this, hang on, I'm still being told, no, I can see it. Why can't you see it? Just hold on a second, folks. Why can't you see it, folks? Okay. Let me just stop the share for a second. Okay, if you could let me know, can you see just me now? Sorry, this terribly breaks the flow, but we've got to make sure that this is, I actually went to some effort to, this is one slide that I need you to see. Okay, good. That's good. You're just seeing me. That's progress. Now, let me just bring up my share here. Just about to get to the action part too. All right. Pardon me, we're going to have to go to plan B. All right. We'll do it this way. Let's see how good this camera is. Okay, very, very, very low tech. Okay, what you have got to see here is we've got three particular areas. And as I said, the area down here, the work and obligation area of the area is, like I said, your 9 to 5 and all of those sorts of things. Then hopefully, and sleep qualifies for this, but you've got a rest area. You know, typically, spoiler alert, your bed is the classic standard example of a rest area. And then we've got, whoops, here. And then, just wait for it to see, we've got our project area. Okay, so we've got our area, which is the project area. So with our, in terms of when we think project, we think about, you know, in the academy, we call it our academy project. This is the business you want to create, or the movement you want to create, or the, you want to learn Japanese, or you want to, you know, learn an instrument, or create electronic dance music, or become a magnificent artist like me, right? Though any of those things, they are in this area, right? The project area. So does that, let me know in the chat, does that make sense? Does that make sense to you in terms of the fact that there are three areas? Now, some of you might be snarkily saying, well, the rest area I don't have, really. And all of those sorts of things make a big difference as well. All right, very good. I don't think I have enough years left to develop my artistic skills to that level. Very good. Okay, let's keep let's keep going. All right. So what I want you to do now, and this is if I fly back to our area, this is now audience participation time. Hooray. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. I want to look at your current environment. Okay. So I want to look at your current environments. And this is where the pen and paper come in handy. So what I want to do is the first environment, and let me, I should really give you a definition of environment. Environment is literally where you do your stuff. Like literally, here I am, I'm doing my live stream. The technology's failed on me a little bit, but I've got my iPad here, and so the environment is typically, this is where I do my live streams, because as a usual thing, the technology is with me. All of those things, right? So that is what we're talking about, if that makes sense to you all, right? So it's literally, your environment is where you do things. And okay, what's in your environment, right? So we want to focus on where you do your things, but we also want to focus on what's in your environment as well. Do you have a phone in that environment? Do you have, well, you saw I had the iPad in this environment. Do you have books in that environment? What do you use headphones in that environment? Right? I want you to just try to be as detailed as you can. When I get you, I'm going to give you 2 minutes for each environment. When I get you to work, and just jot down, and I just want you to think about where you currently do your activities. Okay, so we'll take the could be the easiest or could be the hardest actually first, which is rest. All right, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes, okay, to just jot down. You just do little bullet points, right? Just keep writing though, right? Don't let your pen stop in this particular exercise. Where do you rest? Where do you recharge? Okay, and what's in your environment? So, for example, you might walk as a recharge mechanism, but where are you walking? And most importantly, what do you have with you when you walk? Do you have your phone with you when you walk, etc., etc.? Right? Does that make sense? Okay, just let me know in the chat that makes sense, and then we'll get started. He brings back the chat window. I'm watching this from bed. Okay, very good. All right, so let's start. Let's be non-denominational. Hey Google, set a timer for 2 minutes.
Got it, 2 minutes, and that's starting now.
There you go. You heard the lady. 2 minutes. I want you to jot down where you do your rest/recharge, right? And I want you to be real specific, as specific as you can. Where is it? So, okay, your bed, but what's in your bedroom? Do you have a tea? Within reason, right? Rest environment. But is there a television there? Is there a mobile phone there? Is there, do you have notepad and paper? Do you have a Kindle? Do you have all of those elements, right? Those are the things that we want to look for. All right, so just jot down as all of the things in your rest environments. And like I said, if you meditate or you do yoga for recharge, or you do a discipline which has the effect of recharging, that's great. I'd like you to say where you do it. I do it at the dojo. And do you have anything with you? Do you have your mobile phone on the karate mat with you? Or do you have your, a book with you, or any of those things? All right. Just keep doing that. Okay, we've still got about a minute left. Jot down as much as you can. Try to go in as much detail as you can. Okay. Hey, Google, stop. All right, good stuff. Okay, we've done that. Now, let's talk about your work area. And remember, I defined work as if you've got a job That's it. That's your work. So it's your 9 to 5, the thing that is bringing in the money. Now, if you're fortunate like me and you're on this call, you could be my work. I only have two environments. I have my work environment and I have my rest environment. Okay, which is wonderful, right? But for the vast majority of the real world, people that I teach tend to juggle three environments: their work obligation, looking after a relative, or it could be any number of obligations that whatever that is. You could be driving an Uber, or you could be any of those. Whatever this work environment is, I want you to spend the next 2 minutes jotting down that, right? Where is it? Where are you doing that thing? Literally in the office, at the desk, and then try to be specific. Okay, where are you doing it? At the desk, your phone, if you've got your home iPad with you, if you got your, what's in that environment? Okay, let's go. Set a timer for 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes and counting.
And think about it. Do you bring your project, right? And if you do, what tools do you bring with your project in that environment? What do you bring in? Right? Is there a phone, mobile phone, tablet, computer? Maybe you drive an Uber and you're in the car, and do you have your phone in the car? Do you keep your work in the car, etc., etc., etc.? Okay, got 20 seconds. All right, pens down. And finally, what I want you to look at is I want you to look at the uh, your project, the thing that you want to build. For a lot of my students, it's the business that they're trying to build, right? It's the business that's going to get them so that they can quit. They can only have two. If you visualize that diagram, that you only have two people in that environment. Okay, so that's part of what we're looking at here. Okay, so you've got your 2 minutes. Where do you do your dream project or your hobby, or create your movement, or build your area? Okay, that's what we want to have a look at. All right, so I'll give you 2 minutes. Go. And remember, what's there? Do you have the phone from your work? Is that in the area? Computers, email, what is anything that dings or whistles? Um, maybe you do your project sometimes at work. Maybe you do it at your desk at work during lunch, or if you're in the Uber, when you're in the car, or any of those things, right? Where are you doing this thing that you're doing? This is already very revealing. Excellent. We haven't even got to the cool stuff yet. Love it, Stan. Okay, 40 seconds. Where do you do your project, the thing that you want to build, the thing that you want to do? And could be if you're learning a language, or you want to be better at a particular hobby, like you're taking photography seriously or anything like that. Where do you do that? What tools do you have in the vicinity while you're doing that? It's interesting. People are coming to, and pens down, by the way. Yep, pens down. What's interesting, and feel free to contribute in the chat while I'm talking, people are already noticing some things about their environment which are potentially not ideal. So that's really interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the major keys. I had a really cool slide. Look at that, major keys. Woohoo. Okay, this is the major keys part of the presentation. Okay, the first thing that I need you to understand is all three environments, right? Sorry, let's take a step back. When it comes to changing anything, right? If you are trying to make a change, if you're trying to build a business, that's making a change. If you're trying to learn a language, it's making a change. If you're trying to lose weight, that's a change. If you're trying to anything, right? If there's anything where you can make a change, there are three levers that you can pull. Okay, and I talked about this in the email that got you all here. The three levers. So the first one is your environment, right? If you change your environment, you will literally change your outcome. Okay, but we're going to park that for 1 second. The other two elements, which are the standard elements that we all work on, is you can change, and I'd write this down, time. Okay, how you spend your time. If you change how you spend your time, you will, by definition, it's science, literally science in this case, change your outcomes. Right? If you change how you use your time, something will change. No question about it. Science, like I said, science. The third one is energy. And I'm not talking woo-woo science energy or anything like that. I'm literally talking about your energy, your capacity. And I've got to say, if there's one thing that trips most people up in building a business, and I've observed coming up to 500,000 people start their business now through the challenge and what I do with the academy and everything, I think the number one thing which trips people up is energy management. Literally, does this make sense to you? You come home at the end of an excruciating day at work because you've had really challenging circumstances, and you've scheduled in an hour to work on your business, and you just can't. Your brain is literally and metaphorically speaking fried. Does that happen? Is that just me? Right? This is the energy, and again, massive leaps in science, starting with all the researcher that Roy Baumeister, I should say, German, conducted, which was summarized so beautifully in the book Willpower, right? It's willpower, as we know, is a thing. It's not some metaphorical concept, which I'll go into in more detail in just a minute. But when you think about it, does that make sense to you that there are only three levers that you can adjust? You can adjust environment, you can adjust time, or you can adjust the way you manage your energy. That's it. If you're starting to build a project, you need to, by definition, pull one of those three levers. Okay. Now, here's the thing, right? If you look at how much willpower those things require, and let's just bring this up. Let's put the cards on the table. Something that we know in science, which is absolutely, an absolute guarantee. And I had a really cool slide about this. Willpower doesn't work, right? It does not work. We know this intuitively as a reliable change factor, as a factor that we know you can reliably, rely on, like it ticks over every time, like you get in the car, you press the button on the start, you assume that the car's going to start. Most of the time it does. Touch all available wood, modern cars, right? You expect it to do something, right? You expect, you expect something to happen. If I press the power button on my phone, I expect the screen to light up, and it does, right? That's the nature of what we do. Trouble is, whenever we try to change the lever of time or the lever of energy, we are literally changing. We need to, it's us, right? It is literally you that is doing that change, which means you have to expend energy, right? Which means that you are expending willpower. Okay. And you've got a fuel tank. Willpower is a fuel tank. The metaphor, not literally, but the metaphor is a fuel tank. You start off, and the only ways you can top up your fuel tank, your willpower fuel tank, is through rest. And I'd be very interested, just if you could just type in, don't look at anybody else's answer, but just type in the chat, how many hours your standard night hours sleep? How much do you get? I'd be very interested. Just pop that in there. So rest is a way to top up that fuel tank. Of course, things like meditation and yoga are ways to do that, and stimulants, right? A way to do that, but they usually come with downsides, right? Stimulants as a general rule, right? So that is a big deal. And I'm just noticing in the chat already that one person, maybe two, there's another one, 8, right? The science is in, people. If you're not getting at least 8 hours of sleep, you are in deficit, right? Now, there's an argument to be made as you get older, right, that inverted commas, you do sleep less. But here's the thing. That was in an environment, and those studies were studies of people who were in retirement homes, who were retired and not trying to do anything. You, I hope, are trying to build a project. You are trying to build a business or do something like that, right? If you've got to, you have to hit that 8 hours. And that's just one example. If you're not hitting the 8, you're not hitting your will. You're not filling up your willpower, which means that when you are faced with a crunch choice of working on your project, then that's a problem. Because here's the other thing, right? That is science, and this may be offensive to people, but it's true, is that we are running 99% automatic, right? We are 99% automatic. Most of the things that we do, right? Most of the things that we do are on pure automatic. All right. And it requires anything that is a change from our automatic processing. We are literally just like the phone, right? We are just like the phone in that sense. 99, creatures of habit, John, exactly, right? We are 99% just, we may as well be an algorithm, right? In terms of how we do things. We are triggered by, guess what? Environment, spoiler alert, right? But we're triggered, and our responses to whatever trigger or stimulus that we have, our response 99 times out of 100 is exactly the same. And this may be offensive to some of you. Oh, I'm a free will person. And so, yep, okay, that's fine. Maybe don't watch the rest of this because you're only going to get more upset. If we're 99% automatic, and to make any change in that, and most people, the go-to levers, the levers that there have been entire billion-dollar industries created on, energy, giving you more energy and giving you more time, why aren't they 100% successful? Why don't they work all the time? You know, if we all were, wanted to lose weight, or why doesn't any of those things happen? Okay. Well, I wonder. So what does this mean? So it means your project, if I bring back my amazing piece of artwork here. Because it's on white screen, so I have to wait for it. Right? What's the first thing? Already, virtually every single person live here, and I'm very interested to know. Please make sure you're following along. If you're watching this and following along, please put it in the chat. Right? Do you notice that already the vast majority of you are compromising just on one basic area of rest? Right? You're already making compromises, right? In one area. So you're already compromising that. And guess what? When something happens in the world, and it's not your fault, it's perfectly natural, right? The first up against the wall is your project, right? When anything happens in your life, and there's one thing I've learned is poo happens, right? The first thing up against the wall is your project, whether you're learning a language or you're building a business or you're doing anything. Okay. That is the problem. Right. So that's the, and so why don't I get my business started? Why don't I learn that language that I'm really keen? I really wanted to learn this language, or I really want to learn this instrument, or I really want to, self-publish an album, or I really need to write that book. Right? Why don't we, when intellectually we know that that's the case? All right. So that is a big deal. We're already compromising on rest. We have our work and obligations. When the poo hits the fan, we still have to turn up to work because we still need to feed the children or educate the children, or, the dogs, feed the dog. We need a roof over our head. You are biologically, there's nothing you can do about this. Your core, the limbic part of your system, the oldest part of your brain, is all about your survival, right? And it will take over. The moment the poo hits the fan, there's nothing you can do, right? It will take over. Now, I shouldn't say there's nothing you can do. That's what's so amazing about mindfulness training. That's what's so amazing about meditation and all of those things. But that's not today's topic, right? But who has the time to meditate, right? You're already compromising on sleep. Doing a proper 20-minute meditation or mindfulness session, that's already out the window already, right? So we're the figurative candle, we're burning on both ends. So are you starting to smell what the rock is cooking, right? We're already setting ourselves up, and our work obligations is the thing that we have, is the final area of non-negotiability, because that relates to our survival in one way or another. Or we have such a built-in obligation. If you're looking after Nana, you can't not turn up and help Nana, because you'll die, and that will be really bad and you'll feel horrible, right? Whereas if the project doesn't get finished, guess what? Who cares? I know it's hard to feel, but do you care if I learn Japanese or not? Not a single person cares. Do you care whether I lose weight or not? No, not really. I mean, you might metaphorically say, oh, yes, Ed, I'd love you to be fit and healthy. You're a good bloke and I want the best for you. That's nice, but you're not sitting, I hope you're not there at home sitting, oh, geez, I hope Ed learns Japanese today. Oh, this is real. Oh, geez, maybe I should check in with him. How's the Japanese going? Right? You've got your own things to deal with. You've got your own problems. So there's one final thing here while we're bringing up all these major keys, and it's this thing. Your phone, your frenemy. Okay, the mobile phone is the greatest technological advance of our lifetimes. the industries it's created, the opportunities it's developed, the industries that it has done, the ability, the flexibility and the ability for communication. So many awesome things that it has done. There's no question about it. But we've also put a slot machine in your pocket, right? It is literally designed, and the apps are designed, and everything is designed in it to steal your attention. It's not your fault. The world, where have all the world's top psychologists? Where do they? Are they in a university somewhere teaching other psychologists? They in the working with patients with mental health issues? Is that where the top psychologists are right now? No, they're in Facebook, they're at Instagram, they're at the free-to-play game manufacturers. They're the people who are paying these psychologists, the best in the industry, the best in the business. That's where they're all working, right? Because it's designed, they're designing, and it's not their fault, really. I can get it. You want people to consume your stuff. Your business livelihood, your livelihood relies on people using your stuff. So if they can figure out a way to make you use your stuff more, that's a good thing, right? And we thought it was a good thing until it wasn't a good thing, right? Until it became an addictive behavior, just like eating too many Tim Tams or not getting enough sleep or any of those things, or harsher addictions like drug addictions and all of those sorts of things, which have more obvious ramifications. Because typically when you use your phone, you feel good, you're catching up with friends, you're playing a game, all those sorts of things. But now I see people saying my mobile is turned off. Do not disturb is great, right? Yeah. Oh, well done. That's awesome of you. It's one tiny itsy witsy problem. Go back to your environment studies, your little environmental audits. How many of you had your mobile phone in your environment? Could be turned off, but did you have it with you anywhere on your person? Who's had phantom rings in their pocket before, where they feel like their phone's buzzing, but it's not buzzing? Just let me know in the chat, right? Does that sound familiar? Here's the thing, and this is where the study of environment comes in. Guess what? If that mobile phone is anywhere on your body or anywhere in your visual field, even if it's turned off, your brain keeps a part of it knowing that that thing dings and bells and whistles, even though you've got it and consciously you have turned it off. The science is incontrovertible. Incontrovertible. So I've put it on do not disturb. I've put it on silent mode. It's really cool. Guess what? If it's anywhere in your environment, it's doing exactly the same damage. You may as well have it turned on. If it's anywhere in your visual or physical field. Wow. Okay. Now we're starting to get to the crux of our issues. And let's talk some good news. Well, let's talk some good news. If you change your environment, you change your life. And the environment is way easier because once you change your environment, it's changed, right? Yes. Do you need a willpower to change your environment? But yes, it's a one-time application of willpower. I'm changing my environment, right? I go to the coffee shop, or, it's a one-time change, and you will produce a change. This is extraordinary. Now, we're going to go into all the details of this. Indeed, we're going to workshop all of this, right? Experience phantom buzzing now, phone while walking, right? This is where we're at, right? And it's not your fault. This is literally scientific discoveries in the last 2 to 3 years, right? It's not the mainstream. This is what I spend my life doing, is trying to figure out why people aren't able to make change. In my world, making change means creating a business that means that if you reduce your environments for 3 to 2, so you've just got rest and work environments, and in rest environments, I include family activities, and they should be restful as a general rule, right? And we have a work environment. That's our ideal. If we can get from 3 environments to those 2 environments, that's awesome, right? That would be fantastic. That's, when you're working for yourself, basically, that's where I want to get people to. But everything is working against you. Now it gets, before it gets worse, it gets better. Notice how many things, if you look back over your environmental lists, how many of you, and it's totally cool, and it's the standard, I might say, right? How many of you do your project work, learning your language, building your business, in the same environment you do your work? Right? It's literally in the same place. Like you work at your desk at lunchtime, or you work from home in your business, and you're using the one thing. Just let me know in the chat. I think the answer for a lot of you will be that you do. And by the way, before I discovered this research, that was my answer. I did everything here, right? So trying to, do a broadcast, trying to do all those sorts of things, and then try to write a book, right? In the same place where your work and your project occurs. Guess what? That is a massive problem, right? But the good news is it's so simple to change because the science is in. It is incontrovertible, right? One of the reasons you have struggled so much to write that book or to create that piece of content, that if you're doing it in the same environment of where your work is, there's 2 levels. There's the obvious interruptions you're getting. In fact, I was speaking with a client. Hello, if you're on the thing just yesterday, right? She got on there and said, "Oh, such a frustrating day today. I kept she owns a real world business, very successful real world business, but she's trying to create this project. And she said, oh, so frustrating today. I just keep getting interrupted." And I said, okay, but we've been working on environment. Describe to me how you're interrupted. And because we worked on this, your phone is in the other room when you're doing work on it can't be your phone. Oh no, they've got my landline number, and they literally don't remember those. Remember those kids, right? And I am phoned, right? I am doing right. She's literally getting landline call. Can you think of anything more psychologically interruptive than a traditional old landline phone going off, right? No wonder it's a stress, right? So so again, her work environment and her project environment interacted. There was a reason in my art. Oh no, I've lost it. I drew them like that. They need to be completely separated. In an ideal world, they are 100% separated. Every element is separated. How many of you when you talked about how you rest, how you recover, for example, how many of you are, watching a TV program? That's fun. Game of Thrones, love it, right? How many of you are watching that TV program with your phone? And, you might say, oh, I'm enjoying it. I'm following along with the Twitter comments. It's really enhancing my experience. Yes, great. But don't for a second think that you are resting, that you are generating to rest, right? Don't think for a second that you are resting there, right? Because if your work device impedes on your rest area, and hopefully a few of you said things like yoga, or I go to an art studio, or I go to a dojo to do martial arts, or I work in the gym. All right. It's very hard when it feels like rest, but guess what? The science is in. You are doing nothing to actually increase your willpower. You're doing nothing to build your energy. It is wasted, 100% wasted. If you've got your mobile phone on the treadmill, now, if you've got a separate device, which is just, show you're listening to a podcast, that's fine. But if it's a podcast about work, don't think for a second that you're chalking up true rest time. There's a reason why in yoga, they don't let you, yoga pants don't have mobile phone. Maybe they do. I hope they don't. Yoga pants don't have mobile phone pockets, right? You imagine what a yoga class would be like, or a meditation class, or a karate class, or indeed a music lesson with your teacher if your phone kept buzzing and your phone was on or your phone was out. It's insane, right? The science is in. The environments must be kept separate. Okay. But here's the cool part, right? Is once we can make some simple changes, and all of a sudden we are having major change, because guess what? Environment changes require 1 ounce of 1 ounce of email. Oh, sorry, 1 use of willpower, and then you don't have to use it again. You're done. You're in that spot. You're in that ritual. Remember, we are 99% automatic. The NBA playoffs are here. I must watch. That's fine. But give yourself the gift of truly watching the playoffs. If you're sitting there with your phone, right, your work device, don't for a second, I'm not saying I'm the last person. I think hustle is crap. I'm just trying to get people 5 hours a week, because I know the power of 5 hours of uninterrupted, pure, pristine, creative work a week can do for somebody who's creating a business. But I'm not getting those creative hours out of people. And the problem is, as much as I love it, that thing. By the way, you're saying, Ed, you're such a hypocrite. This is not connected to the internet at all, right? It's not connected in any way, not even on Wi-Fi. I use it there for following chat and stuff. So it's got a single-use device, right? So here's the thing. So how do we fix this? How do we start going about fixing this? Well, good news, because there's some changes that we can make that can be done really quickly. So we're going to do another exercise, okay? So the first thing what I want you to think about is your project environment. What are you trying to change? Okay. Are you trying to learn a language? Are you trying to build are you trying to build a business? Let's focus on that change area, right? What can you do environmentally? And I just want you to jot down as many things as you possibly can. Okay. What can you do to change the environment? And for those of you, just to spoiler alert, what I did 2 things. One is I set up a little standing desk just out here, like it was like a $50. There's portable. It's a cheap as cheap, right? 50, right? That's out there, and that has an iPad, which is not connected to the internet, and a keyboard. So when I do my typing, and my whiteboard, I moved out there, right? So for my planning whiteboard, not my Kanban whitening board, for those of you who've been around a while, that's got to be exactly where you are the most, all right? But I created a little environment there. The other thing I love to do is I love to go to the library, right? Public libraries are fantastic. Takes you completely out of your environment. You know, you are looked on horribly if your phone goes off in a public library, right? And so I go up to the library for an hour, and guess what? I leave the phone at home, right? Just for that hour, right? Oh, but I need to be in contact. You know what? 999 hours out of 1,000, probably 9,999 hours out of 10,000, you don't need that phone. There is the one time that you do wish you had it and you were 50 minutes later, but why ruin the rest of your life for that one time where you find out something 50 minutes after you potentially should have found out about it? That's it. And if that's the case, we need to change that, right? That is an environmental change. All right. So 2 minutes, I want you to jot down as many ideas for your project, whether it be build a business or learn a language or whatever it is. What are things you can environmentally change for you to, and just, it doesn't matter how crazy they are, how cool they are. I just want you to come up. The competition here is how many ideas can you come up with, right? At the end of the exercise, I just want you to type in the chat what number of stuff that you came up with. All right, here we go. Set a timer for 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes and counting.
So what are all the things you could do for your project environment to separate it from your rest area and your work obligation area? Or if it's already separated, what could you do to improve? If you find yourself getting interrupted, how are you interrupted? It was like we thought we'd nailed everything in terms of environment with my one-on-one client, and realized that it was the landline that was the culprit. So think of as many things as you could do. What are potential places that you could go in your area to work on your project, your build a business project? Go with as many ideas as you possibly can come up with. Okay, you got 20 seconds. Okay, pens down. In the chat box, as quick as you can, how many ideas did you come up with? Go. Just type the number. How many? Don't type the ideas, type the number. It's starting to come through. 9, 4, 7, 8, 6, 7, 7. Tim's winning at the moment with 9. 21, 20. Fantastic. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at that list. That's really cool, right? Look at that list and pick what's the one thing that you could do, like as an experiment. Let's do an experiment. Let's create an experiment for this next week, right? What's the one thing you could do, right? If you look at that list that you've created, and I'd like you to type this one in the chat box. What's the one experiment that you could do this week, right, to see if we can make our project environment more conducive and less interruption conducive? And spoiler alert, perhaps the single best thing you could do, if you could go, if you're a person that's annoyed by sound, public library. If you're a person who actually I'm a person who doesn't mind the ambience of a cafe, and I don't mind, listening to like white noise or electronic music or something that doesn't have lyrics, because again, the science is in lyrics are bad, right? Or there is the science is in, you just have the same song on repeat. That's fine too. That'll actually work. Do you have? So we've got one popping up here already. That's a good one. I like that. Local quieter coffee shop after work before going home. Or if you're interrupted, if you find yourself being interrupted at the coffee shop, libraries, right? Most people have got a library within driving distance. They've just never been there. They can be great spots there. And there are many other spots like this now. Co-working spaces, right, is another one. Create a daily routine that takes me out of an office. Here's the trouble. Remember, daily routine requires a massive change of willpower, right? So the way I'd tweak that, Marilyn, is saying, okay, I am going to work on my business project, not the stuff that's keeping me alive, my obligations project. I'm going to work on that in this specific space. All right. Hot desk at the Chamber of Commerce. Love it. Use library instead of coffee shop and home. A library. Fantastic. Right. Because here's the thing. And this is an experiment. Okay. Figure out the experiment that you're going to use this week. And what I'd love you to do is we're going to have another session, same time next week. And I'd love to get your up a little earlier for some extra quiet time, right? We can't, I want you to focus on environmental changes where you do something. I'm hoping a lot of you are saying, I'm going to put my mobile phone turn it off and put it in a completely different room to where I am. So it's not in my visual space. I hope that's an experiment that some of you will try as well, because that is one thing. Do rapid transformation hypnotherapy and tapping into sleep. Again, not an environmental change. That is that's changing how you spend your time and how you spend your energy, which is a lot harder to do because you have to have willpower every single night to do that, right? So what's an environmental change that you can do? And, we can do the same exercise with your rest area. We can do the same exercise with your, for example, just rest. One example would be use an eye mask, right, to sleep, right? That is an example. That's an environmental change. Because here's the thing, willpower doesn't work, but environmental changes require one step and that's it, right? Because then if, let's say you've chosen to go to the coffee shop or go to the library to do your project work, then it's a destination. So maybe you schedule it on the way home or the way to, your obligation, your day job, your work job, right? It becomes a ritual. Then the only thing you're taking is the elements, the environmental elements, the notepad and pen. That's why I'm so, I'm devolving all of my technology. If you've known me for any length of time, you know what a technological geek I am. And I am. I love it, love it, love it, love it. But I'm realizing that if I love it to the point of not being able to create, not being able to put stuff out in the world, because if I'm not doing things like this, where I'm teaching people, again, nobody cares. I make no impacts to my tribe if I'm just sitting there twiddling away on Twitter or Facebook. And I love Twitter, make no mistake. I make time for Twitter because I love it, right? I enjoy it, but I separate it out. In fact, Twitter time for me is always when I'm waiting in line somewhere, or there's plenty of times waiting for daughters and that sort of stuff, right? I'm not anti-technology by any stretch of the imagination, right? It delivers a flexibility and so on. Often technology is a factor of environment. Does that make sense? All right. So here's the question I want to leave you with today. What was the biggest impactful thing that you learnt today? What was the thing that made you go, oh, or was it, was the most impactful thing? I'd really love you to pop that in the chat window. What is the thing that really made you go, oh, what did you learn? What was the impact? Separate work from project. Separation of the three. Make a changing environment that doesn't require willpower. Make rest a priority again, but again, design your rest environment, right? If that's the, I'll give you an example of this. Where I meditate is I've got this great chair, which I meditate in. It's got a big fat thing, so it's comfortable, it's cushy, it's lovely, right? Fantastic. So that's where I meditate. But then I realized, oh my God, at many other times during the day, I was trying to work in that same chair that I meditate in. Guess what? Your body, it's an environmental thing. And I realized, hang on a second, if that's my meditation chair, that's the only thing I do in that chair, right? Or, deep relax. That's it. Because I was trying to type and use a thing and write my book because it's a comfy chair. It's really nice. But here's the thing. Your body, which is attuned to anchoring, right, far more than it, remember, we're 99% automatons, and your body will default to the thing that pleases you the most because guess what? It just wants you to be happy. So as soon as I put my butt in the meditation chair, guess what? Right, which is great when you're in meditation because it actually makes me, and this is the thing, this one use or one purpose things. Now, again, you're saying, well, Ed, that's all right for you. You're in the situation where you have a decent house and you have multiple rooms and all those sorts of things. It's fine, but your rest environment, which could be your bedroom, right? You could meditate in there. That's fine, but maybe you do it in a cushion with your back against the wall, or be inventive about these things. But remember, environmental change is the key. Okay, and that is the absolute key to doing this. Why do people have the biggest breakthroughs, for example, when they go to conferences? When they go to, here's the thing, when you're working on your laptop, science tells me, and science backs me up, nobody gets their big ideas, or as my good friend Dean Jackson says, nobody ever has a breakthrough on their laptop. The device that you're doing email and your communications with, you do not get, your big idea does not pop into your head at that point. It never does. It literally simply never does. It does when you're in the shower, when you're on a walk, when you've first woken up and you're in that, half sleep, half awake state. Why do the ideas pop in then? Because your environment allows for them to do so, right? Because what's happening is, particularly our phones, right? Particularly our phones, but other distractions as well, because they're taking up all those periods where the far more powerful part of your brain, which has no way to communicate with you, right? It's a real problem. The bicameral mind, right? In the old days when we were evolving, that part of the mind did communicate with us. And that's what people thought were messages from deities of their choices, right? Who's that? Who's that voice? Some people with that part of the brain, it's incredibly powerful. It has incredibly powerful insight, but in most people's brains, it can't communicate with you. So the only way it can do that is by popping in insight, and we turn off that, right? We turn off that insight. We turn off that thing because of dings, bells, whistles. And again, as the science has now told us, even having the device, even if you completely turn off the device, that ding, bells and whistles, but it's still in your visual range, it has exactly the same effect. Right, look at all these things. I get amazing ideas laying down. My ideas come during walking meditation in the morning. I do my best programming troubleshooting in the shower. But guess what? In our survey just before, most of you are getting 1 to 2 to 3 hours under what science has incontrovertibly told us is the amount of rest. The biggest game changer in professional peak performance is how, like, they're now mandating sleep for your NBA. Somebody talked about the NBA playoffs. One of the key changes that the best teams in the competition made, and there's fabulous articles on this, is insisting that players got 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night, right? Just increasing their sleep to 9 to 10 hours a night had massive improvements. Yeah, the 76ers implemented this with their coach, Brett Brown, right? The best guy. How terrible is this? Oh, God. I can see him. The best basketball player. Anyway, do some research, 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Peter Phelps, the swimmer, 9 to 10 hours of sleep, right? Sleep is a thing. So if you have a hard time sleeping, that needs serious work, right? There are solutions to this. There are sleep clinics. There are, many ways to improve your environment for it to be way more conducive to sleep. And I would argue, as a bet, that a lot of people who have trouble sleeping have their work obligation and devices sitting in the same room with them, even if they're turned off, as the room that they're sleeping in, right? LeBron James, thanks, Stan. How could I not think that? Michael Phelps, God, I'm doing great. In fact, let's call it a day right there, right? So I hope this was useful to you today. It's an amazing topic. I've only scratched the surface of what's been discovered, but my hope is that you will try one environmental change experiment this week. And I'd love to hear from you about how that went. You can come back to this video and type in the comments. While you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, bash the bell, bro, all those things. That would be marvelous. To my Academy students, this recording will be up in the Academy overnight when you wake up in the morning. So have a great day, night, evening, wherever you are, and then you get that all sorted out. But environment is a huge deal. All right, with that, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll speak soon.